Rhonda, just stay standing for a minute. Rhonda, I haven't even prepared you for this, but I'd like you to offer a blessing on this group as we talk about Onalee.
And I would like to ask if people could speak clearly so the Zoom people can hear.
You'll be turning them.
Yeah,
okay, so
but to
speak up.
Speak up, yes.
Sorry, Nano, you're on the list. Give prayer. I did not have the presence of mind to remember that. But you've got a good mother. So if you would just stand and offer prayer to bless us all to remember.
Dear kind and gracious Heavenly Father, please bless us all to remember Onalee Reeve Wood as the kind and loving person she was. Please bless us all to be able to enjoy reflecting on her life together, that we may all be grateful for the time we have with our mortal companions here on earth. Please bless us all to be able to get through this grief and to enjoy this place that while we have it. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Now, there is a tradition with Nano and I. This is the way you say amen. 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 Thank you. Thank you, Nana. That was absolutely beautiful. Very, very good. Ralph, I would suggest that when anyone shares, we'll just kind of go around and when you're ready to share, raise your hand. And I think if you just have to stand up and step forward, then all of us can hear a little better. You can record it. Does that make sense? You'll be turning. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just start off quickly. First of all, I thank all of you for being here. What a legacy Onalee leaves. And I got to be a partner. I got to be a partner to this legacy. My former assistant when we worked in Barron's Township, Helena Fall, she was married while she was living there. And I got to know her husband. We used to do a lot of things together. I followed her career. But she just texted me and she had seen it on Facebook. So thankfully we had put it on Facebook today. Thank you. I think it was Stephen. Who was it?
Sure.
Oh, sure. Did you help me get it on there?
No, I assigned him.
I knew I dealt with Stephen somehow. My namesake.
Yes.
Anyway, what she said is, you have hitched your star to a beautiful star. And I agree with that. Right now, she's going to be dragging me along. The star is probably a shooting star, but it will be bright and I'll be able to follow it. But I'm grateful for Onalee. I'm going to have more to say tomorrow, but I just want to open it, share feelings you have about her, cute stories. We should be laughing and crying at the same time. So let's do that. Don't be shy.
I'm sitting next to him, might as well start with something.
I guess we better.
All right, so here I go. So anyway, as she was progressing through legs working, legs not working, legs working, legs not working, she would vary between going through walkers or canes or whatever she chose she was going to use that day, right? And one day she was feeling extremely spry. And so she grabs her walker instead of the cane, surprisingly, and she goes, down the hallway, looking at my dad and myself. Look at me motoring now, boy. It wasn't fast, but she was thinking. She was blasting right down that hole. So I have more to share afterwards because there are other things that she used with that cane as well. When she
I'd like to let you know why she did that, because we had tried to get her to use her cane or the walker, to use the walker, and she was walking down with the cane. And James was following along behind her to make sure she didn't fall. And she turns around and,
I can still do things myself, you know.
yeah, exactly. That was her character.
I'm going to go.
Connie, step forward so that he can get you, and we can all hear you.
Well, I was.
You're
willing to
fine
go
right
back
there. You're fine right there. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
She's right.
She's up here. She's gonna stand in front of me.
This is the closest I'm ever going to have to a sister. We grew up together, not necessarily at the same elementary school, but we did go to the same middle school, high school, and were together for our first year of college. So we had lots of fun. She's a free spirit. She is spontaneous, and she's funny. So she will put you on the right track and make sure you stay there, which is a wonderful thing about her. I loved her dearly. I have a lot of memories. We hoed sugar beets together. She got to hoe them because sometimes she was very bunctious and would get rowdy. I got to hoe them because my dad said I had to hoe them. But it was a good learning experience, and I cherish every moment I remember with Onalee. She never missed any event. Any event in my family, she was there. And whether it's a wedding or graduation, and she and Steve were a team to be reckoned. They would go anywhere they felt their presence would beautify and benefit. And I am so grateful. I still have curtains in my house. I've been a widow for 15 years, and you know, you have to do everything on your own. And one nice thing is nobody knows any mistakes you make. So I had a hard time hanging curtains when I first moved to Traverse City, Michigan. And lo and behold, Onalee came over to help me settle in. She was somewhere within the 500 miles and made it, and she got Steve to put the curtains up. They're still there. They're faded, but
I hope so. I must have done a good job.
well, anyway, that was just her trademark. You know, she would be there. And being a widow now and knowing that my husband is on the other side of the veil, we have a team still, and they will have a team still. He takes care of things on the other side, and I hold the fort here. And that team makes me want to be a better person, because, you know, we're all taught that, you know, our marriages can be forever, and that life is eternal. But then it happens that you lose someone you love, and then you hope it's all true. And so you live your life hoping that you will be able to be with that person again. And so being alone is not so bad. It gives you hope, it gives you courage, and it helps you stay as good as you're gonna be. So I express my love to all of you. I may have to sneak out a little early because I have a 5-year-old who doesn't understand why I'm not showing up for charades. But I want to hear from all of you. I love you all dearly, and you all look alike, okay?
Thank you, Carmen. I appreciate that.
Does everyone know that her father Hal is Onalee's father Perce's brother?
And he's Onalee's uncle.
Yeah, right.
Can I tell you just a little story about Hal? Onalee invited me in 1966 to go back there for Christmas. And that's the first time that Kay informed me, do you know that Onalee belches? I already knew that. But Perce, their father, he always was the home teacher to Hal, because Hal didn't come to church, even though Connie did. She committed to her grandmother to go, and so she was always in
I was
church.
just always, I was born a churchy.
But so Perce said, I need to go over and take care of my home teaching. So he took me over to Hal's, and he took me in, and Perce says, we're here at home teach tonight. Oh, he said, well, come on and sit down. And so pretty soon, there's a realization comes to me, hey, you're Onalee's, aren't you? I said, yeah. Well, that's different, he says. He jumps up and gives me a big hug and welcomes me to the family.
Okay, I got a story. All right. So I was 35 years old. I had 4 children of my own at that point, okay? I went to Legoland one day with my kids, and we were just walking around Legoland doing our thing. All of a sudden, I hear this whistle. Loud, this huge loud whistle, and my head whips around. I see 4 teenagers running back to their dad. I'm like, it just brought back so many memories of us responding to a whistle. And I'm like, and I called my mom, I'm like, I'm 35, I'm still. My head whipped around as soon as I heard the whistle. I was on alert that there was something I needed to be for. And I'm like, I was really tempted just to walk the guy and report in, but I didn't. Because my kids were going the other direction. But if they weren't going the other direction, I probably would have gone, because, you know, I mean, mom whistled us in everywhere. Can I tell Lori's story?
You would have pulled it on Onalee and gone and made a friend?
Yeah. But I mean, one time Lori was up the hill walking with a boyfriend, I think, right? Where is she? Anyway, mom whistled her in. He's like, are you a dog? Which Lori was kind of embarrassed about at the time, but we laugh about it now. But, you know, that whistle, I mean, she saved Stephen. She saved you one time in Egypt walking the wrong direction.
Yeah, he would have fallen in with a terrorist group if she hadn't whistled.
He would have. He absolutely would have. You know, they whistle that red hair and say, we could use that red hair. But you know, the whistle and, there was something else I was about to whistle. It came, it went. But anyway, it was just kind of fun always to be called, you know, we responded all the time to the whistle.
Can
And
you
know.
tell the whistle in San Francisco outside the Opera House?
Oh, do I know that one? Oh, I know at the airport. So I did this to Jody the other day. at one time at Newark Airport, things were getting backed up. Oh my God, out of her car, she whistled. She's like, move it along! So yesterday we were at the airport. I was picking up Ralph and the kids. Jody and her kids were on the same flight. And I picked up my kids. We were just about to pull out, and Jess pulls up, blocks the lane of traffic. While Jody and
To be
Ann and
fair, my mom just said stop and would not let me go park. So I had to block
traffic, so I honked my horn and I yelled, move it along! Get on with That's my story.
I can carry on with the whistle with my friends.
Go.
Right? So when my friends heard the whistle, they said, you have to go, or she's gonna come get all of us. Thanks, guys. See you later.
I'm wondering if anyone can do Onalee's whistle. Has anyone picked up that talent or
It was
skill?
not what she wanted to share.
One of a kind.
You know, she lost the ability to whistle that, but she got over to the care center and we got talking about it, and she came up with her whistle over there. It was amazing. Everybody looks.
So the memory care center really worked.
Well,
That's the right place.
not only did she have her whistle at the memory care center, but she also had a list of suggestions of how to make it better.
And she required me to go to the director and read this list. Salt and pepper needs to be on the table. I said, yeah, but in memory care, they all carry it off. Anyway, there were a lot of things that she wanted.
She had many suggestions, and I'll carry on with one. So she was on my watch one time, and I needed to go to the Apple store to go get my battery replaced on my phone. At the time, I needed to go down to the restroom. There's a row of chairs, right? We had left my phone there, so I didn't have a phone anymore. I'm like, Mom, just sit here. I need to go to the restroom. I'm going to go outside for 10 minutes. I'll come back. She said, yes, fine. I have my puzzle book. It's fine. I go out for 10 minutes. And I come back and she is nowhere to be found, right? And I'm like, oh man. So I go back in the Apple store, nothing. Walk back down, nothing. I asked a woman to go in the women's restroom, can you ask for Onalee Wood? Nothing. And I'm like, man, my siblings, they're gonna come after me now. I've been out here all for an hour and I've lost my mother, all right? So she had decided that after she'd been in the restroom that the hooks were too high in the door frame for old women that wanted to hang their purse and couldn't reach it. And she walked all the way down to the information desk. Now, she was not fast. Right? So I was like, how did I lose her? She goes, well, if I had known it had been that far, I probably would have had you carry me or something. I was just like, okay. She's like, I'm sure it'll be fixed by tomorrow. I'm like, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
If the sound was too loud in the movie theater, she'd get up and go and ask for the manager. I need that turned down. She always wanted to get me to do that, and I would never do it.
Did it work?
Boundaries are good, Grandpa.
Did it work?
Boundaries are good.
Well, she came back and tolerated the movie, so it must have worked.
You do that at restaurants too, if the music was too loud.
Oh yeah. I've been over them out.
Or if it was too cold, or she would fix
Or she was too near the kitchen.
She just took care of business, that was it. If you don't communicate your need, it's not going to be satisfied.
Heaven will be put in order.
Oh, you forgot they got algae first. That's true, Ryan.
When I first heard that my aunt had passed away, I kept thinking on that comment there that her and my dad, Bob, they were very opinionated, as some of you know, and neither of them backed down. This is it, and so when I first heard Aunt Onalee's gone, I'm like, she probably saw what Bob was doing up there and had to get up there and straighten things out. That's the only thing I could figure out, so. That's one of the thoughts I had this yesterday.
That's true. Now, she butted head with all my brothers.
Okay, that is your brother? That's horrible.
That's
her.
his father is my brother.
Okay.
Yes.
His father.
Introduce yourself when you come over.
He's several. Quite a bit like him. He's getting a little older.
I'll share one. One of my favorite stories of Grandma was I flew out here. I was starting college, and well, it was before I started college, but I flew out here for like an orientation, and I needed some parental people to come. My parents couldn't come, so my grandparents came with us, and I went to college in St. George, and so we road trip down there, and it was my brother, my best friend, and me in the back seat. And Grandpa suggested, hey, let's put on some music. And Grandma insisted on her Elvis Presley radio station. And we listened to that for about 2 hours. And Grandpa said, Onalee, maybe we should let the kids pick a different station. We've listened to all of these songs about 3 times now. And Grandma said, no, Steve, I'm the driver, so I get to decide. So the whole 4-hour car ride there, and then the whole 4-hour car ride back, and anywhere else we went was Elvis Presley or Frank Sinatra. Both beautiful singers, but anytime I hear an Elvis Presley song or Frank Sinatra, I think of my grandma.
So she was on a trip with me to jump on my pogo stick in all 50 states, and she achieved that. We finally did it. But we were visiting her uncle, Jack, they were in Arkansas. They're in the wonderful hills there. Ozarks. Anyway, her aunt says, listen, you're going to go through Memphis. If you go through Memphis, if you just turn on the freeway and go 10 miles south, you'll be in Mississippi. You can get another state. So we turned south, and as we're going down, the first exit said, Graceland. Well, you know where we ended up. And it was a wonderful afternoon. We had to call the people we were going to visit and stay with that night. Well, we'll be about midnight. But it was great. It was just wonderful.
Brian Wood.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'm still now trying, after that story Jessica shared, why they don't understand why Billy Joel played 36 times across the country. So take after my mom on that one. Yeah, I think I was banned from Billy Joel the next trip across country. So anyway, Connie, I learned how to hoe sugar beets with my mom and weed the sugar beet rows. And so I just have those special memories as well. I think we came out to visit Grandpa, and she said, we got to go out to the sugar beet farm. And I learned to hoe sugar beets and also milk a cow. So.
What about all those games she plays with licenses?
They never stopped. She would come up with as many words on that license plate as she possibly could. There's little points. If you only added the vowels, then you got less points each time. So, and every car was a new chance, and we played a lot.
Onalee
Of words or anything, right?
Onalee loved to drive, but if we had to get any place fast, she was driving, not me. So she'd say, she'd tell you that. And when I would be driving, she would always tell me if I was above or below the speed limit. It says, you know, it's a 45 and you're going 30.
Well, you should speed up.
Oh no, you're just like her.
Oh no!
No, it's just the law.
So, my name's Onalee, or Allie. I'm Michelle's daughter, and Onalee's my grandma. A story that just came back to my mind was, I think I was 16. I think I just barely gotten my 6 months of having my license. I could drive other people. And I was on break for something. Might have been over the summer. No, I think it was August. Grandma had some surgeries over like that year, and she needed a ride to a doctor's appointment. So my mom volunteered me to drive. And if any of you know me, I hate driving. Like, I am terrified of it. My mom, learning how to drive was a traumatic experience for my mom and me. And but I did it. And I was driving Grandma, so I picked her up. We were on the point of the mountain. We were driving down into Draper, and it was raining. And I was on the freeway, and it was a terrible combo. But Grandma was like, "You're going under the speed limit, Allie." I was like, "Grandma, I'm sorry, I'm scared." She's like, "You can speed up." And so I sped up. Because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And we start hydroplaning. And I was like, this is awful. And so I'm in tears at this point. And Grandma's like, I've never heard her be this peaceful. She's like, "It's gonna be okay." And it was just like so peaceful. We got control of the car again, and I was so scared. And we get to the doctor's appointment, and then afterwards, she's like, "I'm gonna take you to Arctic Circle. You deserve it." So, we go to Arctic Circle, and I've never met anyone who orders fish at Arctic Circle. So after a day of hydroplaning, doctor's appointments, and fish from Arctic Circle, I got her home safe and sound, and the van is still going strong. So,
thank you, Allie, for getting her home safely.
I have a story, actually. So, as you know, my father was a culinary expert, and if I do say so myself, I inherited a little bit of that. So, yes, I was cooking breakfast for Grandma and Grandpa, like about a year ago. And I put a little bit of oil in the pan for the scrambled eggs. I was swirling it around, and Grandma said, "Nope, too little." She took the oil and poured. And poured. And poured. And then once she finally put it down, there was this whole centimeter of oil. We might as well have been making deep fried eggs at that point.
But they were delicious, right?
Yeah, they tasted okay, actually. They were, let's just say they weren't ruined. They were still pretty good because, as you all know, I'm a culinary expert.
Now you know why I like to go skiing with that kid. He makes lunch for us. It is really good.
Always tuna fish.
So there's
was one time we were, Kaylee and I were living in Stephen Onalee's basement. I'm Stephen Smith, Stacy's son. We were living in their basement while I started going to Ensign College, and Grandma and Grandpa went on a road trip. I'm not sure where they went. They went somewhere in Idaho, and one morning we got a call, and I answered and said hi, and it was Grandma. So she said, "Hi, I forgot my medicine. Could you come and bring it up halfway?" And so Kaylee and I, we took the day off from what we were doing. I don't think we had jobs at the time, or at least, because it was shortly after we moved in. And so we picked up the medicine, and we drove about 4 hours up into Idaho, and we met Grandma at a Denny's. And so she treated us to some Denny's. We gave her meds, so our little drug run was successful. Then we said bye, and we parted ways, and we drove another 4 hours home. So it was a good drive that day to go deliver Grandma her meds.
You know, one day our nephew was going to be baptized up in Boise, and Onalee said, I really want to go to that. And I said, oh, it's a little bit far to go for this thing. And she said, well, I'm going. If you're not going, I'm going. So she took off. She drove 5 hours to Boise, attended the baptism, and then she drove 5 hours back home. And she's done that for more people. It's amazing. She'd love to be on the road.
Hi, I'm Rachel, I'm Stacy's daughter, and Allie's story reminded me of the last time I actually saw Grandma over the summer. We took a trip to Walmart, and so the only car that we took was our big black, SUV sedan. I don't know.
It's Yukon.
Yukon. It's Yukon XL. And so we took it to Walmart. Grandpa drove there, and on the way back, he was too tired and decided to take a nap in the back seat, which led me to drive the car, and I'd only driven that car maybe once or twice before. And so I'm in the car driving home, and I'm kind of scared because I also am a bit scared of driving. I like it, but I'm a bit scared of it, especially in a car that I haven't driven before. It was a big car. I usually drive a Honda. I usually drive his car, which is a smaller Honda. And so I'm driving the car, I'm having a bit of trouble, and Grandma just starts going, I don't know, she just starts I don't know how to describe it. She's joking. She's like, oh, don't make sure not to crash. I'm like, this really isn't helping. And I kind of jitter it a bit. And she's like, oh, we're slipping. I'm like, but we managed to get home okay.
She only thought I was sleeping in the back there. I was praying.
Okay, speaking of praying and driving, I feel bad for intruding, but I am Rourke's wife. Uncle Steve's my uncle-in-law.
I am your uncle. Just say uncle.
And honestly, this family, I'm going to be the one that cries, so there you go. If you want to cry, I'll cry first, because I cry all the time. But
Don't worry, I cried too.
okay. But they have been, I'm closer to them than I am to my own aunts and uncles. They're very accepting and have supported me and my kids throughout the years. And that was one of the baptisms, was probably one of our kids, right? The Onalee. Okay, well, lots of memories. They've come to my concerts. They've come to so many things. It's amazing. Okay, get myself under control first. So I was at the Salt Lake Airport. I was on my way to Southern Utah to go on a trip to West Virginia with my mom on a road trip and my siblings. Well, I got stuck in Salt Lake. We were leaving the next morning, and I thought, what do I do now? I don't have a flight down there that was full. Should I rent a car? I didn't have a credit card, so I called Uncle Steve and Aunt Onalee. I'm like, what? Do you have any suggestions? He's like, what should I do? Aunt Onalee's like, at first she was just gonna come let me use her credit card to be able to rent a car, but no, she's like, okay, I'm gonna come pick you up at the airport. I'm gonna drive you down to Hurricane. And she did. She came, she picked me up from the airport, drove down to Hurricane, and she was trying not to make me feel bad and said she was gonna go see her sister as well.
Her sister did live in St. George, but I don't think she was there.
She didn't. She did not go see her sister. She spent the night at my stepmother's house with me, and she took me there, but I do remember driving on the way there. I was a little nervous about the driving, and I kept saying, do you want me to take a turn? Do you want me to drive now? No. I'm like, no. But anyway.
She just didn't want the radio changed. That was
I don't even remember what was on the radio.
Probably Elvis.
But yeah, I was very thankful. I mean, they've been so gracious to our family, and I really appreciate and love them.
Tracy, you only thought we were coming to see you. We were coming to see Jackie.
Well, of
It
course,
just so happened those things happened at the same time.
she was the main person. Yeah.
That reminded me, even your last concert, it was just a couple weeks ago. It came up on our calendar and she wanted so badly to drive up there and go enjoy that for you.
She did.
And we had to convince her it was not a good idea. But she's like, it's on our calendar. It was her plan. I remember my mom, she allowed us to just play. I didn't care if it got messy, outdoors, digging in the dirt, creating things. We played outdoors. She was a very...
She kicked us out and locked the door.
Some of you.
That's your memory.
It was mainly James. But I just remember her being this young, beautiful, active mom who just created play, created, you know, our neighbor, Barb Newell next door, did not like kids to walk on her snow. It had to be pristine and clear so her kids would go around and play in ours. You know, and we couldn't even like make a path. We usually walked across the front of the houses to their front door, but when it snowed, we went down and around. I remember Mom and Dad were going to host a Relief Society dinner in our backyard, and the same neighbor, Barb Newell, helped them design these flower beds, and it was the entire, like a couple months of work of cutting out beds and planting flowers. Our yard never looked more beautiful, and Mom was so proud of that yard, and I think that was some of the beginnings of Dad planting flowers for her.
Yeah.
And it was endless supply of flowers for the rest of her life.
Remember what they called themselves? Moose 1 and Moose 2.
Yeah, in fact, Dad kind of had an aversion to celebrating Valentine's Day or buying her flowers, but he would plant her as many flowers as you could think of to cut into a range, and it was, our yard looked beautiful. In 2012, my parents relocated to Utah. And they became a huge part of my life. I mean, they were before, but in my young family, they were at so many of my kids' activities. They were a part of us. They were in our home a lot. I needed my mom. She came for 2 of my bed rest pregnancies to get my kids here safely. It was not always easy for 2 women to run a house, especially Michelle and Onalee. I remember on one of these bed rest pregnancies, I was Relief Society activities, chair. My bed had become the nursery. I had my baby by my side. Tavo was on online school, so we had a desk for him in the corner. I had my bed, his desk, the baby's crib. I had to create that space to be very functional because I was off my foot for almost 6 months and the recovery was even longer. And I remember I was trying to do the Christmas stuff for Relief Society. I even had the sewing machine and a little table set up in that room, and we were trying to sew all of this sparkly tulle on the base of these aprons, and my mom was at that sewing machine helping me accomplish this huge task. And there was a knock at my door. And anyone who knows me knows that I would be horrified for any woman in my ward to walk into that bedroom. But Onalee like, we're in the bedroom, come on in. And I was like, I wanted to die. But to her, it was life. She invited people into her life and just welcomed them in, and it made everyone feel more comfortable with who she was. But I needed my mom to benefit my family. It was a 3-year period of time, 2 bed rest pregnancies, a foot surgery, and recoveries on all 3. And then shortly after that, my parents started to relocate. they lived with us while they shot for a house, and then again, just a couple years ago when their house flooded, they moved back in. So we've had my parents in my home a lot, and it has blessed us. And we have a lot of Onaleeisms that we also say because of it. I got the mantra of sympathy, not solutions. I am a solution person just like my mom, and I will just fire them away. And one day my two sons were creating this video for a student body, and I was so excited because I was like, it's a project. And I'm in the car and I'm firing off all these ideas, and I was like, what, do you not like any of my ideas? And my kids were like, no, we got this, we have a plan. I was like, well, do you not like my ideas? And my son is like, you just have so many of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my mom. And it was totally Onalee. So those are some of the highlights that I was just writing down. I love my mom so much.
I want to just say something about that because Michelle had a bedridden pregnancy, and Onalee was out here for 4 months, living with her, helping her, and she got back to New Jersey, and she said, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And a little while later, I got a phone call. She said, Steve, I'm at ShopRite, but I don't remember how to get back home. I've patterned on Michelle's neighborhood. And I began to realize that she was beginning to forget things. And I got her a Garmin, and then her phone has saved her. Her phone, she tips it where she's going, and it tells her which way to turn every time that she gets back home, too.
And after a drive where she didn't take her phone, we put an air tag in her car. Find her if she got lost.
Exactly.
Is it still there?
It is still there. Grandpa knew we put it in, but now we're tracking him.
I had forgotten.
Well, my two young boys were the lucky recipients of their time in New Jersey, especially when they were, growing up from ages 0 to 7. And one day I'm in the kitchen cooking, and James and Jack, this is my son Jack, I am James, their son, by the way. My son James is not here, but he is called to represent his love. So I'm in the kitchen, and I suddenly just hear Jack, who was much more of the rules. He liked some rules, he liked things in order, he liked things. James was a little bit more of the full throttle child. Right? And so I hear Jack suddenly say, oh, James, I don't think you should be doing that. And I knew that was my kid. And immediately, if James was doing something I would have done as a kid. So my mom had just put up new wallpaper down this hallway, and James had found a permanent marker that he was now just, coloring within the lines of whatever was lines at that time. And I was like, James, what are you doing? He just drops it, he goes, nothing. It was something. So I am attempting to clean up this mess, and I am just making a bigger mess. And I'm like, we're all dead. And she just looks at it, breathes deeply, says, okay. That was not the reaction I was expecting, right? Because it had been too new. But she just let it go, knowing that there were young kids, and that was that. So I was surprised. She must have had a good therapy session with me that week.
Well, yeah, we went to therapy quite often. Stephen, did you tell about your volcano?
She knew.
Yeah, when you said she was excited about kids making messes, I'm like, well, I took that to the nth degree. Let's see. Before the volcano, I didn't want to... The sewing machine, I love how much it's come up. That she was taught to sew, and that same sewing machine, the Singer Classic, just ran and ran for years and blessed. I think at age 8, me and my good friend Logan decided that a double-headed dragon was our costume for that year. And it was, looking back, it's so cool that Mom was like, okay, we'll figure that out. And she sewed up this double-headed green, I don't know how it happened. As a kid, you're like, yeah, we sewed it, The volcano story was, having had summer now, which is a little mini me, I realized why my mom would just take whatever appliance, like, you could go ahead, just go take that apart, because we get her an hour of time. Focus. So I'd been in the basement, I had a class project, and it was, the classic volcano with baking soda and vinegar. But I was going big, and I was going to paint this thing. And Mom and Dad had gotten a brand new carpet finally. I think they were getting a little more well-heeled, and like, okay, let's get a carpet, honey. So it was her first new carpet.
She had put a binder around the edge of a carpet, but it was in our living room.
Yeah. And I decided that was the place I should paint my volcano. So little Steve was
a coffee table about his height.
Yeah, gallon of brown paint, you know, stucco, and you know, the volcano, it didn't, the vinegar didn't happen, but it just spilled brown paint everywhere. Anyway, that was a time where she told me I better run. Sometimes mothers really do kill their children.
And he ran. Did she have to put a spoon in her hand? That's what she told James he had to go out and find her. He was hiding in the woods somewhere.
I feel tracking him from the start because that boy was running for his life.
So Mom saved my life and threatened it. At the same time. Yeah.
I'll share. I'm Amy, Onalee's youngest sister. And hearing about what type of mother she was, I was only 4 when the twins were born, Laurie and Stacy, and Susan and I, we just were so excited to have brand new baby dolls to play with, and
One each.
what you could
Said one each.
yeah, exactly. And we look forward to them coming over and being with us, because our memories of Onalee are as a young mother. And she was one of the first role models for me to learn about mothering and having children. And we spent lots of time with the 4 oldest, because they lived in Saginaw at the time. And as a young girl, maybe 10, they let me start babysitting kids at 11. I was interested in her disciplining because I was so impressed that it was Brian, and he had red boots, and he was kicking and doing things with the red boots that were inappropriate, not in a weird way, but just I mean, just kicking the siblings and kicking in the furniture. And so she took the boots away, and they were in time out. He didn't get to have them. She put them up on the fridge where he could see, and he had to wait like a week. And I was impressed that she found the punishment to fit the crime, and rather than, so she was good at that, and I was, and she was generous with her children. She allowed us to take care of them and play with them whenever we wanted, and we looked forward to that opportunity. And I remember every Sunday after a while, we rotated, at least through the girls. I don't know if Brian got a turn or not. Maybe it was, did you get a turn? I don't know. But I remember the girls took turn every Sunday after church. One of them would be able to come home to our house.
We had double meetings. We got to go over between the meetings.
Oh, between the meetings, and we had, yeah, Sunday school and second meeting, yeah, alone, and have one-on-one time. And I always look forward to that. And any other things I should be saying that I can't remember now?
I thought Susan said you guys always ran to the den to hide from us when we would come home.
That's Susan. Older. that was when we were teasing about boyfriends. Hot rod.
When we moved to Pennington from Michigan, it was a sad day for Onalee parents because we lived there 6 years. And it was just marvelous to be close to grandparents, but my professional job took me to New Jersey. And we had a swing set in the back of our house, out on the side. And across the street, there was a picture window, and a woman, neighbor would be there, and she would look back and she would see these kids playing in the back. And one day she called on me, she said, "You know your kids are walking across the top of the swing set." And she said, "Really?" Yeah, you need to go out there. No. If they can get up there, they can do it.
She told her to close her blinds and not look at the father. Oh, goodness.
I'm Susan. I'm the second youngest sister. And I also started babysitting young for Onalee and Steve. And I was not as into discipline as maybe other people.
That's why you were our favorite babysitter.
But they always called me back.
Yardstick. Yardstick. Well, the price was right.
And having older parents, and I knew loved each other, but they really weren't always affectionate. I would go over 11, 12 and be lovey-dovey all the time. I hadn't seen that before. And then when my own children were older in advanced math classes, I would pay long distance an hour for her to tutor them. I'm like, I can't do this.
When we had to pay for long distance calls.
Yeah, at the time. And she diligently taught my children. And my last tender moments with Onalee happened just in June, which was a blessing because my son got married in Germany, and Steve has brothers there, and Onalee says, we're going. And it was just a tender time with her and James and Steve and his other brother, and that they were able to be there for me because I didn't have much family that were able to come. And so that was a blessing to me.
That was one of the sweetest trips we ever had together. It's really the last trip that Onalee was able to tolerate, but we broke it up by going and spending a week we flew to Dulles, spent a week with Stacy, and then we flew to Germany, met James in Atlanta, arrived in Germany. James stayed a little longer than we did. We flew back to Dulles, and we were going to stay with Brian and Jody. We were going up to New Jersey. We had an open house up there, invited all of the people that were down, had a big turnout, really wonderful. And going back, we found out that they were in quarantine. They could not stay at their house. So we went back to Stacy's, and I planted Stacy's flower bed.
You did a beautiful job. I had knee surgery, so I had neglected my flower beds all summer, and he cleaned them up.
I couldn't stand the sight of it.
It was terrible, and he made them beautiful, and they still look good.
I have a story I remembered, and probably a little traumatic for you, but how many grandkids are there of us? 28 of us? I mean, just the amount of love that he has for each of us. But so this story is a good reminder. It was you, me, and Grandma, we were home, and you said you want to go for a walk by the river. And I said, yeah, I think I was maybe 5. And it was kind of when the ice was starting to melt on the river. And so you and I were, pressing the ice with our foot because it seemed stable enough to be able to step on it. And so 5-year-old Jack was like, well, what if I fully step on it? And so I fell into the water and you scooped me so quickly. And I've always been a little bit afraid of water from that experience, but we were both soaking wet. It was the middle of the winter, and we had to walk a half a mile back to the house. And so we walk in the door, we're both visibly dripping wet, and Grandma goes, "What did you do to my grandson?" So all to say, parents may love their children, however, grandchildren, I think, have a special spot.
Oh, well, do I have a story for all of you? See, something you gotta know about Grandma, she always had the best food stocked up. My favorite cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Fruit Loops.
Diabetes in a box. So good. She always had delicious snacks like Cheez-Its and Ritz crackers, saltine crackers.
You're obviously a grandchild. We didn't get that.
Hey, not my problem.
No, all of this time I thought you were coming over just to be with me.
Yes.
Well, that too. Food's also snacks. I mean, I can be over there and also have time with you while having snacks, right?
Now I get the priority, yeah.
See, she always had Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, all the good cereals, and those snacks galore. And yet,
I didn't really get it very often. Mainly when I was just staying over for a night, you know? But as I told you the breakfast story earlier, I have cooked for them a few times, but that was one of the only ones I really remember in depth. But they really did have a wide variety of things to choose from. Oh, and another thing, guess what? Sometimes they would go out and buy milk. Like, they had 1 gallon of milk that was designated. And correct me if I'm wrong, Grandpa, but you bought half gallons of milk and refilled the gallon, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah. So
Sometimes I would buy a gallon and refill the half gallon because it was easier for Onalee to pour.
Right. But get this, we would always think that the milk was expired. Long story short, it wasn't. Phew.
I've got to tell you a story about milk. You've reminded me. Go ahead. When we were dating, Onalee was a real practical joker, and she was always trying to find a way to get at me. And St. Patrick's Day one day, I got up and I got the milk. I was at college, and I got up and I got some cereal out and I poured the milk on, and it was green. Oh man, this is terrible. And so I went and I poured that in the sink, and I went and got a fresh carton, brand new fresh carton. I opened the carton, I poured it out, and it's green. She had come in with a hypodermic beetle, put food coloring inside of that package. And green. Talk about aged milk.
Hey, my favorite color.
So you really don't check the expiration dates then?
There is a lot of talk about service that she provided, right? And she's given it to so many of us. And she's also given her kids many opportunities to provide that service. Because I would get calls, she's like, oh, James, by the way, this afternoon this is where you're going, all right? And I was like, okay, all right, but this happened because I was last left in New Jersey for a long time also, so I got to do a lot of service that way. But it started when we were younger, right? And she had a workforce that she could bring to homes, to places that just needed help, and she was always looking for that. And I mean, certainly I've learned a life of service because of that, and because of that example. And you know, you certainly brought the same kind of things. We had two that were very much service driven.
Well, she brought me kicking and screaming into compassionate service, let me tell you. I finally got the vision, finally what she was doing. And it was important. It was important for us. It was important for the people that she was helping. Kay said something really funny the other day. Well, we were on the phone. You remember what it was?
Careful, I may need to use it tomorrow.
Okay, I won't say anything.
No. I've only been this quiet because I don't know exactly how I'm going to fill my few minutes tomorrow. I'm afraid to preview anything that I want to say, but go ahead. This is the perfect audience.
On this phone, she was talking about how Onalee was always be there. She would always respond. If anyone in the family had a need, Onalee would be there. He said, and it was always wonderful if you could stand the company.
And on that note,
you're welcome. My name is Jody Wood. I'm married to Brian. I was making a joke about this earlier with the name tag. Brian and I have been in each other's lives for 35 plus years. My name is 4 letters, J-O-D-I. I have probably 10 different variations of how Onalee spelled it over the years, which has been kind of a joke for us because it is 4 letters, so she's had fun with it. Onalee and I had that kind of relationship where so much service and so much love and so much joy if you can appreciate the company. And I have been so much love and gratitude for her over the years. When we were out visiting over the holidays, a story came up about us staying in the basement for a brief period of time when we sold our house and were relocating originally thinking we were going
To Europe.
but we ended up going to Maryland and staying there. But Steve was making a comment about us living in the basement for several months. As a daughter-in-law, I'm like, we weren't even there 6 weeks.
And she corrected me.
I did. Why was that an issue? I don't know.
Why did you seem like 3 months to me?
I don't know, probably because you put on 10 pounds because you ate every meal with us. The reason that I bring this up is that I don't think there's a grandkid here, and many of you, that haven't stayed in that basement, that haven't been a recipient of their generosity and their love. All the married couples just about, even some that aren't married yet, have lived there free of rent, free of anything other than company and occasional yard work and an expression of love. And so I told a story to work earlier, but many, many years ago, my very beautiful daughter there was a newborn. And out of nowhere, Steve and Onalee were coming to town, and I apologize for those that heard the story today, but Onalee said, well, Jody will host. Jessica wasn't even, well, the day we hosted, she was 9 days old. So that should tell you. And I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and Jessica. And I wasn't quite even nursing her yet, like it was still figuring itself out. Anyway, so Lori comes over and we go rushing in, we find a blessing dress and we do whatever, because I wasn't blessing her, I wasn't ready any of that, but we were doing it because they were in town. And then Onalee invited Rourke and his family and Jackie and several other people. And I'm sitting in the front room, and I told this story more for Jackie, but there's a point to it. Sitting in the front room, I'm trying to nurse this baby that I haven't figured anything out yet for. I'm trying not to sob. And Rourke's rambunctious children, and mine became that way, they just weren't there yet. Rourke's rambunctious babies were running through the house, and grape juice went from one end of the house to the other, all through the carpet. And I'm trying not to sob and feed a baby, and Onalee's having fun and asking me when dinner was going to be ready. And she's off socializing, and Brian's out with his buddies and doing the thing, and Jackie comes over to me, sweet Jackie, who I didn't even know very well, and she says, but she watches me losing it, and she's like, one of these days, you're going to look back on this, and you're going to be so glad that so many people came to love you and to love your family and to celebrate this baby and all that kind of thing. And the grape juice just won't matter. And because it mattered that way. But it won't matter. And turn around, fast forward, 9 months later, 8 months later, I had some health problems. I was really sick. And I'd had some surgery and I had some things go on. I had planned to stay put. And Onalee, Steve had come to town for Anna Jean's birthday. And I was going to stay in our apartment, and Brian was going to military school. And the doctor, and Brian was just going to go, and we were going to make it work, because it's what you do. You know, you get it done. And the doctor said to Brian, you can't leave her. She's not to be left. You've got to take her with you, or someone's got to stay with her. And so in 48 hours, we put our house into storage. And Steve and Onalee changed their plans after Anna Jean's birthday. And Onalee drove us to Arizona, got us in an apartment, and helped us get ready, settled, because I physically couldn't do it. And that is Onalee to me in my heart, regardless of the spunkiness or the sassiness or any of that. It's her heart of service. And she just always gave and gave and gave. And sometimes she got cranky while she did it. But a person can only give so much, and she just needs to be loved back. And I'm so grateful that she loved me back, and that she loved my babies. And eventually she figured out how to spell my name.
You know, Ollie had told them they needed to use our van, so you'd use our van to move down there. And then she was going to go down and pick it up. I was working. And so she starts home, she comes on, she gets the van, she's driving it back to Jersey by herself. And she got almost to Carlsbad out of southern Arizona when the car breaks down on the highway. And she spent 2 days in Carlsbad, hitchhiking back and forth to the cave, Well, the car got repaired. And she gets back to New Jersey. Well, actually, she said, I'm gonna go down to Texas. Can you fly down, help me drive back? Because she was now behind time. And so I did that, and we got back to New Jersey and found out that this piece that broke down was on recall. And they had charged her for it, so they had fixed it. And so she went in and raised havoc. You might understand you wouldn't want to deal with her after knowing that. And they fixed it. They took care of Kane.
I had kind of an impression memory, and I would request more stories around it. I think when I was in high school, my mom started liking crowds less and less. And it was kind of like, I was forming my opinion of her, and it was like, she's not really social, or something like that. But I was always amazed that she could drop in with people one-on-one. Like she'd come out of tutoring or just talking with someone one-on-one, and people just come out so connected with her. And it felt like a superpower to me. It still does. That I think that she would really drop in, and people felt seen with her. And I'm curious if anyone else has memories of seeing that or can speak to it.
Well, I feel like those were the years that she started to change a lot. You know, I don't think menopause years were the kindest years for her. It became stressful. Crowds were stressful. But when I was dating my late husband, Gustavo, she was the only one he had not met. And at this point, we get engaged. And I was a little bit hesitant sometimes with a mom who could be a little volatile emotionally during those years, because I had a relationship not work out when I had been engaged, and I was very sensitive to it. But she wanted to come meet him before the wedding, and it was my bridal shower, and she flew out for it. And it was at my home. The party was going to be at my house. It was just easier because a lot of my friends were in small apartments at the time. And Gustavo and I had started to rent a place to get for after the wedding. And I picked her up at the airport. We went back to we ran a couple of errands, and then we're going to go back to the apartment and do a quick scoop up before the party started. And Gustavo met us there. That's when he was meeting Onalee for the first time. And he knew that you never knew if it was going to be funny or a trigger for Mom at the time. And but in Gustavo style, Mom and I start cleaning and straightening up the last few things, and she says, "Do you have a broom?" And Gustavo looked at her and says, "Are you leaving already?" I was not sure how that was going to go, but Mom laughed, and she quickly established with Gustavo that he was not to tease her. And for the most part, he respected that, but it was just in his nature to be a tease. But they had a good relationship, and I'm grateful. And I think she would have loved you. Well, she knows you. I am not
There's a family characteristic that I know about. You can always say like...
Okay, here's another story to tie this in. Josh came over to help us when she was starting hospice.
The shower.
She needed new shower heads.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked up, she goes, "There is a man walking through my room." I was like, "That's my new husband, Mom." I'm so sorry.
She asked like
She
3
doesn't
times,
know
and
you.
she goes, "Who is the man in my bathroom? Who is this man?" And we're like, "This is Josh. He's put in a new shower head for you." And she's like, "Well, there's a man in the other bathroom too." And I go, "It's still the same man. It's only 2 shower heads. And I've requested one as well."
Oh yeah, and there was another time when this same Josh, he brought over a cheesecake to their house, and he earned a new nickname, Cheesecake. As if he didn't have enough nicknames already.
I had to call on somebody to pray, and I was looking around the room, and he was the only one holding a piece of cheesecake. I said, okay, cheesecake, pray.
You forgot your name too, then.
Well, if we're gonna stick with the broom theme, I can do something with this. So, we're in Baustein, Germany for this trip back in June. And this is a medieval town, right? It's all cobblestone streets. It literally looks like you're right on the movie set because it still has the same feel from 1309 with some upgraded buildings, but it definitely had the same. Now our intent was to push her around on these cobblestones.
On a transport chair.
On a transport chair. Well, we got about 25 feet down the road, she's doing this. I was like, Mom, how you doing? Is this comfortable? I'm like, she's like, no. All right, it's not. And so we get her back and we go this walk, and we had a friend of our uncle's who was a tour guide, actually, and gave us a tour that evening. And on one of the shops was a broom mounted to the wall. And I go, Mom, there's a third form of transportation in case you don't want the walker. She just looks at me. She goes, not flying today, son.
Because we couldn't push her around, I had my brother drive us up to the cathedral, and everything was downhill from the cathedral, and she walked on all those cobblestone streets. We just took our time and got her back, and she found it thoroughly delightful. Thoroughly.
She was able to use a Ford Cade instead.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
she
she
still
had-
had pretty good balance that way. And things, so.
Somebody was going to say something, interrupt.
Can I just say one thing since we're talking about...
Jeff, can you ever say just one thing?
No. So this just happened the other day, actually, about 2.5 weeks ago, just before Onalee passed on. I guess it was about a week ago. Anyways, Michelle and I were there, and we were taking care of her, and she went from a comatose state where she wasn't talking or communicating at all, and then all of a sudden she was alert.
Wanted some shake.
Yeah, and she wanted to get out of bed. And Michelle and I were both a little nervous and worried because she was not in a position to really stand up or get out of bed. But she was very adamant that she was getting out of bed.
Just
So-
swing my legs down. Just swing my legs
just
down.
to get my legs down. And so, as we did so, Michelle went to go help her get out of bed.
Well, she realized she wouldn't stay, she was sliding off the side of the bed. So we got her to stand up fairly quickly.
Yeah, and when Michelle went to go help her out of bed, she slapped Michelle out of the way and said, I need his strength. Okay,
strong one.
Lift me
I need
up.
the strong one.
And so it was fun.
So
She was great. And then afterwards, she laid back down and she went pretty
Completely
much
out again.
comatose.
And never had a sip of that shake.
But it was chocolate. So.
Well, I was there sometime after that, and I apparently woke her up because she wanted to get back out of bed. And I said, no, I mean, you just can't get out of bed right now. She said, get me out of bed! I mean, she was adamant she was going to get up. And I was not the strong one. I actually had to pick the buzzer and get some help. Anyway, how much time are we going to need to set up?
I don't think we need that much time.
We need to move chairs back out of here is what we need to do, so.
Is that all we need to do?
Yeah.
Are you setting up a display here?
Well, it might be good to take a break now and let everyone use the restroom before
Yeah,
the
before.
open house starts at 6. That would give us about 25 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes nice to ask it anyway.
Is there anyone else that wants to share something before we?
We can take a few more stories.
Anyone feeling shy? Because I don't know you like.
You know, one of these,
Oh, Ron,
one
that's
of
gonna-
Onaleigh's cousins died up in Evanston not too long ago, and she was not getting around real well, but she insisted that we go. She always wanted to go. She's been to everyone like that, just providing support. She makes the connections. Sherry Thorne, when her husband died, whenever she's gonna go through Brigham City or close, she would call Sherry, say, could we stop and say hi? Or she would say, I'm sorry, we don't have time today, but can we come back tomorrow? Can we take you to lunch? And I think all of them appreciated that she stayed connected, she tried to stay connected. We visited her Aunt Audrey many times after she was in a care center because her family was in southern, down in St. George. So it was just, Onalee just took it upon herself to do that.
I want to be brief, of course, but I just, for you all that knew Dad, Grandpa Reeve, I just cannot help but think of Onalee and my dad. And I can't believe that you were never compassionate service oriented because we never saw.
Well, after I married her, I wasn't.
So it was such a different, she was definitely Dad, not so much Mom, but they had a little mom thrown in, but it was very, out of the girls, I think she was, out of the kids, I guess, she was more like Dad than anyone.
Well, her hands and arms were just like her dad. They were a female version of her father.
And endless energy. Yeah, no, never stopping. There was nothing she couldn't do. Her confidence level, her giving, her ability to associate with anyone and love everyone and give and be Christ-like was what I got out of today's memories. And I love you all, and thanks for loving my sister. And till we meet again.
You know, my father and mother came out, and so did Onalee's parents, when Laurie got married. It was in December. And my father was a journaler, and he wrote in his journal about 3 pages describing Onalee and this wedding. He said, she just takes my breath away. I can't believe how this woman works. It was all in there. It's all in there. It's just a powerful story.
Lori came in.
I was trying to set on there, but yes. You know, I lost my job in July, and I was really, really mad about it because it was just circumstance. It was nothing I did, but it has just been such a blessing because I've been able to spend that time with Mom and Dad and James and Michelle. And I realized when we did Dad's 80th, you know, I had a lot more pictures with Dad. Mom would stay home and watch the kids and let us go on adventures. And so from last April, I've been trying really hard to capture Mom in more pictures. And it has just, it's been amazing. People would call, and like Jack, it was amazing, just the phone call, and she would just light up, and her sisters, and we'd try and call when she had good days, because it was a really weird, she would be a great day, and then the next day she could barely speak, she couldn't hold a spoon, and so it was just this roller coaster. And I remember, I just forgot her name, she recently passed, Karen Ostro. She called Mom, she goes, guess what? I'm on hospice. Mom goes, me too. And it was so amazing, and they said, I guess we'll see you on the other side. And so I've just, like Thanksgiving, it was a really bad day the day before and the day up, and then Michelle brought the party back, and there was tons of family, and then also Christmas Day, we brought the party to Mom. And I was able to get a lot of group photos. And I'll share another thing, I'll try not to cry, but you know, she's 6 kids, tons of grandkids. I mean, she knows how to handle children. And Brandon's sweet family came, and they have a new baby, Colton. And I go, Mom, do you want to hold the baby? And she goes, I don't remember how. And I just go, I'll help you. And so it was really hard to see this beautiful, independent, strong woman forget how to hold a baby. But then she held the baby, and one of the most beautiful pictures I have is your whole family, but then her holding Colton, and the most amazing smile on her face. And every phone call she got, Susan sent this amazing game, which it entertained Dad, which is awesome. And then, you know, Mom kept looking and she was really curious. And so it had how to put it back together, which I think if it didn't have a guide, there's no way I could have done it. And so Mom, just a few,
Canoodle.
Canoodle, yeah, really fun.
I think that came from Susan.
You didn't know, did you?
Susan sent it.
Oh, Susan, oh, yes, Susan did send it. And so then Mom was kind of watching all day, and then she was able to finally, I go, well, why don't you help me put it away? She goes, oh, I can't do that. I said, well, Mom, you know, just try. And then she just sat and did the whole thing, and it was really great. So I just, the visits, the phone calls have been so powerful. I was able to go to McCall, and that was amazing with Summer and Heather's family and girls and James, and we just
And Jackie.
and Jackie, yes. We have the really fun pictures on this bridge. You know, we did a day hike, and we just got out, and there's gorgeous pictures. And so I just have been so grateful to have this time. It was really difficult to decide to put her in a care center, but the care was a lot at night, and now I have to go get a job. Darn it, that's not my favorite thing. But what a blessing it has been to just have those sweet moments. James and I cried several times, and Dad took 3 of us to get her into bed, and then other times she'd just be mad and push you away, and then it was always late at night, like 1 in the morning, and she would always be like, thank you so much for taking care of me. Like it was really beautiful. But so yes, I felt it's a privilege to give back to this woman that has given to so many of us, and I couldn't have done all of my adventures if it wasn't for Mom taking care of my kids. And it's kind of sad that her cancer and osteoporosis got in the way of her doing those things that she loved, but she just made it work. And she would always pay for, I think the Sarah pool is one thing that we would always combine, like 4 big activities when Mom and Dad would come out for things. And so she paid for everybody to go to the Sarah pool, because that was something I couldn't afford. And we have some of the best pictures. So anyway, every one of your phone calls, you all mean so much to her. And yes, I just love her, and I love all of you. And Dad, I love you too.
Onalee was sitting at the breakfast table. She would come out for breakfast. She would make herself a hot chocolate. She didn't want others making it for her. She insisted on making it herself. She'd go over there, and it would take her 2 hours to get through breakfast. And maybe there would only be 1 or 2 bites eaten, but she would drink her hot chocolate, and she always seemed to fall asleep.
Or play Scrabble.
Or she'd play her Scrabble, or Scrabble time. Yeah, she was a big Scrabble, turbo Scrabble. And one day, one of the, I don't know if it was you, Michelle, or was it Jane? I don't know, somebody said, Mom, you're falling asleep. And with her eyes not open at all, she just said, I'm not sleeping. I'm in my memories and my creativity. She was about as cute as she could be. All right, well, I think maybe we should take a break. We've got people starting to come at 6, so.
Thank you for sharing.
Brian's going to direct us on what to do with our chairs.
Yeah, if I can just ask everybody under 30, if you will remove the chairs. Those of you who are older, please move to this side of the room to get out of the flow of traffic. I'm being serious.
Oh, never mind.
And walked out for a